Now I'm going to share what is probably the hardest thing for me to say. But it needs to be said because it is the main reason, maybe the only reason why I'm fighting this. Because I don't care about the money. I don't care that the FBI or Russians want to get money into our economy. I don't care who was involved on any U.S. political level. None of that really matters to me. What happened to me, the way that I've been treated by the FBI, is unacceptable. They've done things to me that, as government agents, they shouldn't be able to do. They shouldn't be able to treat innocent Americans or women this way. I wrote testimony in my whistleblower testimonies to Cosgrove Law Group. I also wrote 2 testimonies of these 2 men, and I'm going to share parts of them because I have to be a little bit careful in the things that I have learned, the things that have been told to me. I'm not wanting to divulge any secrets about the way the FBI operates and kind of works among us. I want them to still be able to do their job, do the good things that they do. But I also want to report the bad things. And I reported it to the OIG, Office of the Inspector General, and basically it says that they can take action, but they don't have to tell me about it, which just doesn't seem right either. Okay. In October 2022, when I was knee-deep in discovery and fully realized what had gone down with Atrium and Laclede, I had some glitchy things happen on my computer. My computer, whenever I would be typing certain things, it would just go black, almost like a screenshot, where it would just go crazy. And I've gotten used to it. It happens a lot now. I had just told Sophie and Melissa that I had uncovered potential money laundering, and so my shock and fear levels were peaked. I knew that Mike had a lot of Romanian and Russian connections, and if they knew that I knew, I wouldn't be safe. The first thing they would target would be my computer. In my panic, I contacted Alan. Oh, I'm changing names too. I'm not wanting to out anybody here. I think the men that did these things they were being told what to do. Not that what they did was right. But I don't think that they're bad people. Just what they did. And I also want to keep the privacy, so I've changed all the names. I contacted Alan and asked if he could look at my computer. I told him I was having general computer problems. He said, no problem, come to my office. He was in the office, XYZ Business Center, which I thought was a crazy coincidence since we had briefly sublet an office there back in 2014. We chatted and caught up while I looked at my computer. As I asked questions about cybersecurity and protection, he responded with more questions of where my fears of being monitored were coming from. He probed me with question after question, intently listening. I remember thinking, man, this guy asks a lot of questions. Definitely more than anybody else has. Within an hour, I'd pretty much spilled out the whole situation. After that, he told me my computer was fine and I left. The next day, he called me and asked if we could meet in private. I was confused as to why, but I agreed. We met at a coffee shop on Daman. He said, let's get the coffee to go and walk. I stopped and asked him what the hell was going on. He said he wanted to ask me more questions and see if I was in danger. I actually laughed and said, what are you, some conspiracy theorist? He smiled. For the next 2 hours, we walked and talked. I asked him why he wanted to know so much and why he wanted to help me. He told me he knows a lot about how these things go down. He asked me more questions about what I knew, what Mike knew, what my attorney knew, and where things were at legally. All the while, he kept shaking his head to himself. At one point, he got frustrated with me and asked me in this fierce, accusing tone, why did you contact me? WTF, I'm thinking to myself, because I needed help with my computer and you popped into my head. He looked at me with a direct stare and squinted his eyes as if he didn't believe me. Did somebody send you? He asked. I must have looked so dumbfounded and confused when I replied, what the hell are you talking about? I guess that was sufficient enough to suffice his concern. He backed down after that. We sat down on the bench and he said to himself, I can't believe this is happening. They knew I had such a crush on you. I remember saying to him multiple times, what? What are you talking about? What do you mean? He usually didn't reply, or when he did, he didn't fully explain things. It was by far the weirdest, most cryptic conversation I've ever had. In the end, he said he wanted to help me. I was like, help me? How? For what? He responded, for when the FBI comes. He told me to come to his office over the weekend, bring a notepad. I'm still utterly confused, thinking this guy is absolutely off his rocker, or maybe he knows something. Anyway, I'm curious enough to entertain the possibility, and I go see how Alan, our tech guy, can help me. When I walk into the office, he tells me to go back in my car and leave my phone there. Why? I ask. For now, just don't bring it into my office. He responds. Then he tells me one of the things he does is risk assessment and helps people reduce their risk exposure. He sends me home with a ton of files, intricate plans, research models on how to reduce my exposure and keep a low profile. He tells me how to reduce my online presence and organize my businesses and finances so they're not at risk either. This went on for about 1 or 2 weeks. The whole time I was in his office, I would just stare at him in bewilderment, and on multiple occasions said, who the hell are you? How do you know all this stuff? At the same time, he wanted more detail about every information and evidence I had. He told me to catalog everything and make a folder for every person and every company involved. It was exhausting and time-consuming, but I did it. It actually was very effective in helping me fill in the gaps and answer many of my questions. My own questions. It was during this time that Alan started making physical contact with me. At first, he would just grab my hand as I was leaving and say, it's going to be okay. And then after a while, he started pulling my hand and arm towards him to give him a hug and say, come here. I know this is scary. You're going to be okay. I thought it was weird and creepish.